Someone tell that to China, though. They're not steering clear, they're hurtling towards trouble. Let me show you what happened in the Taiwan Strait. US and Canadian navies were holding a joint drill. It's rare but not unheard of. China, though, decided to spoil their party. A PLA warship cut in front of the US destroyer. As you can see it in these pictures, the Chinese ship dashes in front of the American one. And between them, just 137 meters. That's a very risky maneuver. We're talking about lethal ships here. Even the slightest miscalculation could have been disastrous. So what was China trying to do? Clearly send a message. We saw a similar incident involving fighter jets. A Chinese plane came within 400 feet of a US spy aircraft. Days later, this happens, a near collision between warships. It shows that China is becoming more brazen. They feel confident enough to buzz US fighter jets or to cut across US warships. China's defense minister has defended his navy at the Shangri-La talks. He says if you want to avoid such incidents, stay away from Taiwan.
To truly avoid these incidents, apart from making rules that we have to do as a last resort, the best way is for the countries, especially the naval vessels and fighter jets of countries, not to take closing actions around other countries' territorial sea and airspace. What's the point of going there? What does it have to do directly with your interests? To put it in our way, mind your own business and take good care of your own people, naval vessels and jets.
The big picture here is scary. China and the US are the largest militaries in the world. You don't want their warships colliding, certainly not in the Taiwan Strait, but China's intention is quite clear. They're trying to map out America's resolve, to see how far they can push Joe Biden. And what's the assessment? Washington clearly wants to engage with Beijing, maybe not to reset ties, but at least to avoid mishaps. We saw an example of that in Singapore. The US sought a meeting with China's defense minister, Li Shangfu. Guess what? He refused. Li says the US must first show sincerity. Listen to this.
China has been seeking to build a new type of major country relationship with the US, but it requires the US side to show sincerity, match its words with deeds, and take concrete actions to meet China halfway, so as to push forward the stabilization of bilateral relations between the two countries and militaries.
As always, China says one thing but does another. The PLA has continuously harassed navies in the South China Sea. Such operations have become more frequent recently, but the US faces a dilemma here. If they keep ignoring Chinese provocations, it becomes the new normal. American allies will lose confidence in them, plus China will be emboldened. But if they do act, they risk an escalation. It could be the perfect excuse for China to attack Taiwan. That dilemma was evident in Lloyd Austin's speech. This is what he said.
The People's Republic of China continues to conduct an alarming number of risky intercepts of U.S. and allied aircraft flying lawfully in international airspace. We've all just seen another troubling case of aggressive and unprofessional flying by the PRC. So we will support our allies and partners as they defend themselves against coercion and bullying. To be clear, we do not seek conflict or confrontation.
So that was the tone at Shangri-La. A lot of blaming, a lot of veiled threats, but zero efforts to find a solution. In fact, there was agreement on just one issue, that war is a bad idea. China said a conflict with the US would bring unbearable pain. And the US said a war in Taiwan would be devastating.
It is undeniable that a severe conflict or confrontation between China and the US will be an unbearable pain for the world.
You know, the whole world has a stake in maintaining peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. The whole world. The security of commercial shipping lanes and global supply chains depends on it. And so does freedom of navigation worldwide. But make no mistake, conflict in the Taiwan Strait would be devastating.
Well, no war is too low a bar. Most countries were hoping for talks between China and the US, but at Shangri-La we saw the opposite. This is a relationship that is almost beyond saving. China seems to have realized that. The question is, will the US? because they're still hoping for engagement, still talking about de-risking from China. And all of that signals confusion. Washington needs to decide how it will deal with China. Do they see China as a competitor or a rival? And that definition will be key to the future of the Indo-Pacific. Of course, that doesn't mean ending all engagement. Talks are important to avoid miscalculations, to do the bare minimum. One such example is the Komodo naval drills in Indonesia. Around 49 countries are participating. Wait till you hear the list. The US, China, and Russia. Some of the biggest rivals are holding drills together. India and Pakistan, North and South Korea. Beyond the symbolism, such drills are key to keeping lines of communication open. Even today, Russia and the US have channels open. It's not about repairing relations, it's about preventing a further meltdown. But China clearly is not interested in that, so the US needs to take a call. Do they keep ignoring such near collisions and maneuvers, or do they take a harsher stance?